to the second breakout session. It's Women Counseling Men. I'm happy to see that there's a man here because I think this is really about how to do therapy with men, regardless of a couple of men. Sorry, 3 men, 4 men. My name is Holly Sweet. I've been involved in Division 51 for the last 20 years. I've been doing therapy for over 30 years, off and on. My first counseling experience was actually with my mother when I was 12, so I had on-the-job training. Currently, I'm in private practice in the Boston area, and I also teach at MIT, and I run a consulting company called the Cambridge Center for Gender Relations, where we try to help men and women understand each other better and learn to work together better, both personally and professionally. This hour is going to be really pretty experiential. I'm going to have you do a little task in the beginning. I'm going to take you through a PowerPoint, show you some clips from some movies about good therapy, bad therapy with men, and then we're going to talk about cases. So I'd say the first part is really going to be more educational, second part more experiential. So what I'd like you to do as we get started is there's an index card in front of you, and I'd like you to write down what your main concern is about working with men. What's your main concern? What is the main issue that you're concerned about in working with men? Okay, at the end of the session, if you could hand me those cards, that would be great. I'm actually editing a book for Routledge called Gender in the Therapy Hour, Voices of Female Clinicians Working with Men. And one of the things I want to address is what are the main concerns that we have in working with men, especially women who are not used to working with men. We really want to try to address those concerns. So a couple of you willing to share what your concerns are? Anybody? What are your concerns? Yeah.
My own biases and stereotypes of men that I'm going to consciously and unconsciously.
Okay, that's a big one. Our own stereotypes, our own, you might call it countertransference, what we walk into the room with. Anyone else? Yeah.
Also, my countertransference regarding being impressed by men, and the depression and the anger I have at men, and the
Anger you have at men.
You know, and all the ways that men have perpetuated that.
Right. That's a big one, actually. That actually, I have to say, is probably the #1 issue that a lot of people struggle with, is that we've had bad experiences with men in our lives, or we just watch TV, or read the newspaper. It's hard not to get some anger, and that is really not helpful in the therapy process. What else? 2 more people. Yeah.
I think creating an environment where they're safe, feel safe being vulnerable.
When men can feel safe being vulnerable, creating the environment. Absolutely. What else? Yeah.
Selling the benefits of being aware of inner life.
Selling the benefits of being aware of your inner life. Yes. Yes, definitely. And I don't know if you were here in the last presentation, but a lot of it was how to help men be good, clients, as well as us learning to be good therapists. And part of our role is to help work with men, to help them be comfortable being clients. That's a large part of it. I have to say, our traditional training, my traditional training did none of that. So I had to kind of learn it on my own. One more. Yeah.
Boundaries, especially when clients are attracted to the therapist and
Yes.
kind of keeping things in a
Yes.
professional way.
And actually, one of the clips I'm showing is a woman who looks like you, Liv Tyler, and she has some interesting boundary issues with a client. So, okay. So I'm going to take you through briefly. What I'd like to do is to spend most of our session, talking about cases. So we'll see how we do. So, Women Counseling Men, and I would love it if you would get in touch with me afterwards. That's my email. I also have another MIT email. Either one works, but happy to dialogue with you. I'd urge you all to join Division 51. I'm in charge of sort of a listserv for women in Division 51, and I think the more women we have, the better. So here's the first therapy, as someone suggested this morning, that this is Lucy giving advice to Charlie Brown. I think it's about the rate at which managed care is going. 5 cents is probably where we're going to end up. So. But, what do you see here? You see Lucy pontificating and Charlie Brown in kind of an inferior position. Now, I grew up with Charlie Brown, and Lucy was kind of pushy, but she's listening. I mean, he's listening, and she's giving advice, and this is how I learned about therapy with men. So as Gary talked about this morning, I call it strangers in a strange land. Men are not that accustomed to what it takes to be in traditional therapy. Male socialization encourages independence, stoicism, and emotional restriction. And you know, traditional talk therapy, the way I was trained, kind of a psychodynamic approach, the key the key metaphor for my program was don't just do something, sit there. And that didn't really sit well with me, but that's the way I was trained. So traditional talk therapy relies on expression of emotions, connection with others, and being willing to ask for help. And all these go against the traditional male sex role norms. Therapy can therefore be difficult for many men to engage in easily, and Gary again talked about that. How do we get them in the door? I think that women therapists versus male therapists have something special to offer male clients. I think that it can be a model for healthy mixed gender relationships and how you work with men in your office, from their opening up to you, to being sexually attracted to you, to being arrogant with you, to being difficult. You can really teach them and show them what it takes to be in a healthy, what it's like to have a healthy male-female relationship. You're not scared of them, you don't shame them, you listen to them, you set good boundaries. Very important learning. It's something that male therapists can't do in the same way because they're men. Therapy, and as Sam mentioned in the last presentation, can feel safer for men because men don't tend to view women in a competitive light. And in addition, men tend to see women as caretakers. So that's a mixed bag, and sometimes it can get in our way. But I think in general, most men prefer to see women because they see women as caretakers. They're more comfortable opening up. They don't feel like they have to be competitive. So those are advantages. And then I think also a female therapist can offer a male client the women's point of view. And sometimes when I work with men, I would say something like, well, you know, I'm wondering what your wife thinks about this. Or, you know, if I were your wife, I might. Or, you know, many women think, and, you know, it sort of gives them the female point of view in a non-threatening way. And, of course, you have to be careful how you present it. But it's really valuable. I think we are role modeling for men, healthy women, for starters, and healthy male-female relationships. And I've been unplugged. So back we go. Now, what can be difficult for female therapists working with men? Well, a lot of things, and some of us mentioned that earlier. One of them is just not getting how a man feels or acts because we're not men. We haven't been socialized the same way. I was talking with some of my friends, I'll be blunt here, we were talking about the stiff dick syndrome, the stiff big dick syndrome, which is that women in this culture aren't quite aware of that, but men are surrounded by this message all the time. You have to be manly, you have to be sexual, you have to be big, you have to, you know, and they get it all the time. It is everywhere. But as a woman, I don't really notice that. I mean, I might, but I notice other things. I notice how women are sexualized. I notice how women are, but I don't really get that experience of what it's like to be a man. So what I've done is I've talked to a lot of men, I've talked to my partner a lot, and I've read a lot, and I'm involved in Division 51. I will never know what it's like to be a man completely, but I think I have to try. Being trained in traditional therapeutic models, which are more feminine in nature. How many people were trained in kind of traditional talk therapy, psychodynamic, kind of, right. And that I have found was, it's hard to get out of that mindset that emotional expression is the key, the aim of therapy. It's really hard, and that it isn't always the aim of therapy, and with men it may not work very well at all. So we tend to go there. That's how we've been trained, and it works with women clients, but maybe not with male clients. And the last one I think is really the hardest one of all, and someone over here mentioned this, which is many of us, because of our backgrounds, because of our fathers, our brothers, our partners, we've been abused, we might have been raped, we've been put down. It's hard not to feel like that in a culture which is still somewhat sexist. We may not really like men, or we may be afraid of them. And I've had people say to me, I'm not a man-hating feminist, I'm a man-fearing feminist. And I think that's a big distinction, that I think a lot of us are trained to be afraid of men. They seem like, that's why I call this Venus and Mars. There's a way that it feels like men are scary to us, or we just don't like them. And when men come in our offices and they remind us of our narcissistic fathers, or emotionally shut down husbands, or the brothers who tormented us, or the male supervisors who put us down, we have to be very careful not to get, you know, our countertransference doesn't take us over. So I'm going to just break this down briefly into 3 parts of therapy, which is getting started, doing the work, and then ending therapy. Talk a little bit about difficult clients, and then we're going to go into some of the case study presentation.